So Phil's corn law has made it now all the way through the House, all the way through the Senate. It's unclear as to whether, it doesn't matter one way or another, whether it went through a conference committee, whether Phil's corn law 1.5, Phil's corn law 1 or 2 passed, it doesn't matter. The only key is that whatever passed in the House was identical to what's passed in the Senate, because at that point it can then go to the president. Once the bill gets to the president's desk, there are 5 things that can happen. There are 3 ways in which the bill can become a law. There are 2 ways in which the bill cannot become a law. So now, before I go ahead and explain this, I have to tell you something a little bit about Congress that we haven't talked about before. And that is that when Congress meets, so at some point after an election, they all get together for the first time and they start making laws. When they do that, we say that Congress is in session. That means they're meeting and they're working. But periodically what happens is Congress essentially closes down, or adjourns is what it's called. It's like adjourning a committee meeting. They adjourn and they all go home. So everybody goes home, and then they come back a little bit later and they get back together. Like right before elections, Congress will adjourn, allow all the different congressmen and women to go campaign in their various districts. Then they come back home. So keep that in mind, that sometimes Congress adjourns. That means they all go home, and then sometimes they're in session. That's when they're all meeting. Okay, with that in mind, the easiest thing is a bill becomes a law if it's passed the House and it passed the Senate, the same bill, and the president gets it and he just signs the bill. Obviously, that's it. That's the last step in the process. Now, that bill has become a law. Also, the bill becomes a law if the president refuses to sign the bill. So let's say on day 1, the bill winds up on the desk of the president. Let's say it's the 1st of January. The bill winds up on the desk of the president. And Congress is in session when the bill lands on his desk. And then 10 days go by. And in those 10 days, Congress has not adjourned. So by the time it comes to January 10th, Congress is still in session. If the president hasn't signed the bill within those 10 days, it automatically becomes a law. In other words, the president just can't sit there and go, well, you know what, I know you passed it, but I think I'll just wait for a little while, a year or two, before I decide whether or not I'm going to sign it. He's got 10 days to decide. If he doesn't sign it after 10 days and Congress is still in session, the bill becomes a law. The other way that a bill can become a law is if the president vetoes the bill. So a bill can pass the House and pass the Senate, and the president can veto it. A veto just means that the president says, I don't like it. I don't like it. So he'll veto it, no, and then explain why he doesn't like it and send it back to Congress, both to the House and the Senate. If the House and the Senate can get 2/3 of each of their chambers, so 2/3 of the members of the House and 2/3 of the members of the Senate, to vote in favor of the bill, then the president's veto is irrelevant. It becomes a law. We call that overriding the veto. The president vetoed it. Congress can override the veto with a 2/3 vote in both chambers. But if 2/3 of the House say, hey, we really like this bill that the president vetoed, and 2/3 of them vote in favor of the bill, and then in the Senate, only a simple majority votes for it, the bill dies. So it takes 2/3 votes in both chambers, and if they override the president's veto, if they say, you know what, we're overriding you, it can become a law, even if the president objects. Now, the bill doesn't become a law under 2 circumstances. One, if the president vetoes the bill, and then it goes back to the Senate and it goes back to the House, and they can't get 2/3 of a vote in each of the chambers, then the bill's dead. So if they can only get 60% in both chambers, the bill's dead. If one of them can get 2/3, but one of them can only get 60%, the bill dies. Right? So when a president vetoes the bill, that's usually the end of it. Not always. Some bills get overridden. But most of the time, if a president vetoes a bill, that bill is dead. But the other way that a bill doesn't become a law is, let's say once again on January 1st, the bill winds up, well, probably January 1st isn't a good day. Let's go to February 1st. February 1st, a bill winds up on the desk of the president. Okay, and as I said, he has 10 days before, if Congress is in session, if Congress is still meeting, by February 10th, if he hasn't signed the bill, it will automatically become law. But if Congress adjourns, if Congress goes home, sometime after the bill, from the time the bill winds up on the president's desk, if Congress goes home, so they're adjourned. Let's say February 1st, Congress is in session. Bill goes to his president's desk. February 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, Congress is still in session, but on February 6th, Congress goes home. It adjourns. Okay, everybody, we're going home. Okay, bye. See you later. See you when you get back. They all go home. On February 7th, Congress is no longer in session. If 10 days transpire from the day one, when the bill wound up on the president's desk, to the 10th day, if the president doesn't sign it now, on day 10, and Congress is not in session, then the bill dies. So, if Congress stays in session, and the president doesn't sign the bill, take that away. If the Congress stays in session and the president doesn't sign the bill after 10 days, the bill becomes a law. If it winds up on the president's desk and 10 days go by and he doesn't sign it, but somewhere in between there, Congress has adjourned, the bill dies. We refer to that as a pocket veto. So in other words, what the president is doing is he's saying, okay, here's this bill you passed. I'm just going to stick it in my pocket. Pretty big pocket. I'm going to stick it in my pocket and I'm just going to hang on to it. Because you guys have adjourned, I'm just going to wait until 10 days are up and then boom, it's dead. And that happens all the time. Part of the reason that happens all the time, because you might be thinking, well, why would Congress ever do that? Why would they take all the trouble of passing a bill and then go ahead and adjourn so that the president can just not sign it? And then it doesn't become a law. And then if they want to pass it again, they have to start all over again. Why would they ever do that? Well, the answer is this. Members of Congress are kind of like students. I don't mean to insult you or members of Congress for that matter. What I mean to say is that members of Congress put things off to the last minute. So they'll have a whole bunch of bills that they want to get done. And let's say they say that everybody knows, hey, on August 6th, we're going to adjourn. Well, all the way through June and July, they won't be getting their act together. And when they realize August 6th is coming, all of a sudden everybody's going crazy trying to pass all these bills. So when it comes to the days right before August 6th, August 3rd, 4th, 5th, they're passing bills like crazy. And then they go home. And all those bills wind up on the president's desk. And the president can just look at them and go, well, I'll sign that one. I'll veto that one. I won't sign that one. The president can do whatever he wants. Congress waits until the last minute to put a bunch of bills on the president's desk, and that gives the president the option of going ahead and doing a pocket veto. So, 5 things that can happen after a bill becomes a law. The president signs the bill, and it becomes a law. The president refuses to sign the bill, and after 10 days from the time that it winds up on his desk, after 10 days, Congress is still in session, and the president hasn't signed the bill becomes a law. Or if the president vetoes the bill and Congress overrides the veto, the bill becomes a law. The bill does not become a law if the president vetoes the bill and Congress is unable to override the veto, so they're unable to get 2/3 of votes, or if the president doesn't sign the bill and before 10 days are up, and the first day being the day that the bill was delivered to the president's desk, if 10 days are up, before 10 days are up, Congress adjourns. Congress is not in session, then the bill dies, and if they want to pass that bill, they'll have to start all over again the next time around. And now you know it, how a bill becomes a law. The simple version, that's important. This is the simple version. It gets increasingly complicated in a variety of different ways, but I just wanted you guys to see sort of the basic idea of how this process and how it happens, and to understand that lawmaking is really difficult. Sometimes people talk about members of Congress as if they don't do a lot of work, as if they really, they're just sort of kicking back and drinking martinis and hanging out with people, and That's not the way it is. It's actually a very complicated process. It involves a lot of negotiation and a lot of discussion and a lot of compromising, or at least I should say that's how it's supposed to work. It doesn't always work that way, and when it doesn't, it's not good. So, but now you know how a bill becomes a law.